Here's your forecast from the First Alert Weather Team.
Beach is jumping on your Bob King GMC First Alert Skycam network. I watch the rips as we look up the Strand. A couple of them detectable as we move the view from the beach to downtown. Gets a little hotter, although it's pretty hot on the sand as well. Sun and clouds and 86, functioning like 89 here at lunch. We got a little more room to grow. And so this afternoon, I think those heat index values at least flirt with 100 in a lot of cases. I want to alert you to an even hotter day tomorrow. That Bermuda high pumping in some deeper triple digits in a lot of cases. So getting back on that train. Here's tomorrow. Here's a ridge at the upper levels, and that's what's helping to guide Beryl toward Texas as opposed to like right up the East Coast. Some breaks in the ridge next week. We need some thunderstorms to pop up in there and give us some drought relief. Not rooting for any storms on your 4th of July afternoon plans. I don't think we have any. But yeah, we need to dent that drought a little bit. Your 7 to 10 day planning forecast offers more chances and a slight temperature rollback. We'll see if that comes to fruition. A lot of deep 90s in the meantime. Here is a look at Beryl, still registering as a Category 3 storm with maximum sustained winds at 115 miles an hour. It just kind of waves goodbye to the Cayman Islands. Its next stop, Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. And that would be per this official forecast track cone from the National Hurricane Center. On the other side of that peninsula is the Gulf of Mexico. And at day 5, a rainy Beryl or its remnants bill involved with the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. So that ridge protecting us here in the Carolinas. Can't complain about that, my friend. Back to you.